Hi BookTube, I know it is only November and I said I wouldn't be returning until January, but the desire to make a video was just too strong tonight, and so I thought I would sit down and pour myself a cup of tea and film myself a Friday Reads video to post tomorrow morning. Because although I've been away from BookTube and although I've been very busy with classes, I have actually been reading. I've actually read almost 185 books so far this year, so I'm very, very close to my goal that I set on Goodreads of 200, and I will definitely be reaching that. I don't see anything short of a natural disaster or something that would stop me. But I've actually got several books on the go right now, just because of the nature of my life at the moment. I've been working on an audiobook called The Man in the High Castle, and I put my notebook out of reach. Gotta get more organized here. But I've been working on The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick. On audiobook on Audible, actually. Now, the reason I picked this up is because I had watched on Amazon Prime a TV series by the same name that has a couple of seasons out so far. And that was quite exciting, and so I wanted to pick up the book that series is loosely based on. I'm a couple of chapters, a couple of hours into listening. I realized pretty quickly that it's not the same story at all. The same general premise is there, but the book is quite different from the TV show, which is fine because it's like experiencing a whole new story. Well, it is an entirely new story compared to the TV series, but I'm experiencing a whole new story with that same general premise that I found so interesting and fascinating in the TV show. So the premise of this novel of The Man in the High Castle, which was originally published in 1962, is that the Americans, the British, obviously the Canadians as well, lost the Second World War. So in this alternate reality, Churchill is dead. Churchill lost the war. The Americans lost the war, and it is now 1962, and the United States is not a single independent country, but rather divided into two territories. So you have the Pacific states in the west, ruled by the Japanese, who conquered that part of the United States, and in the east you have the Reich states. So the Germans have occupied a large chunk of the United States, and roughly in the middle you have, I don't know what you call them in the States, sort of the prairie states, so to speak, those ones in the middle that are really flat and not good for much apart from farmland. You have those which are kind of a neutral zone. So you have people living there who are not really bound by the laws of either of these new states that have been founded within the United States. Now, of course, as I'm reading this, I'm asking myself, what's happening with Canada, and it's not entirely clear. There's some references about a famous comedian broadcasting from Canada because the rules were more lenient there. We get the sense that perhaps Canada is still a semi-independent nation of sorts, but that's not the primary interest of the book. So we have a couple of characters who are in the Pacific states, in the Japanese-occupied territory. We have a Japanese diplomat from his perspective. We have a white American man who has recently lost his job, and so he's going into the jewelry business. And then we have the Reich states on the other side of the country. And the German leader who would have taken over for Hitler when he died is very sickly, there's a chance that he'll die soon, and so there's speculation at the start of this novel about what will happen, not only within the German Empire, but also within the world as a whole, because we almost have a Cold War going on between Japan and between the Germans. In this alternate reality, the Germans have gone to Mars. They've, I think, drained the Mediterranean Sea or something to use as farmland. They've completely taken over Africa and attempted to commit genocide throughout the whole continent. They've got Europe, basically the manifest destiny they were looking for. And in this alternate reality, it's really interesting because Philip Dick kind of explores what the cultural aspects might be like, what the race relationships might be like between the subjugated whites and the Japanese who have come in to the Pacific states and are ruling. So it's a very, very fascinating novel in that regard. So far, I'm really enjoying it, and so at this point, I would recommend it. In addition to that, I am reading in physical form Moby Dick by Herman Melville. I started reading this at the bar last night. I'm about 100 pages in. Going to pick this up next time I have a chunk of time to actually sit and read a novel, which may not be for another week or so, because the major project I'm working on right now is for my political theory course, where I've been tasked with preparing a critical treatment of 3 theorists writing on an author. And so I've chosen to choose 3 theorists who wrote on Thomas Hobbes, and they must be full-length books. So I started off by reading last week Leo Strauss's book on Hobbes, which is quite interesting, and now I've jumped into Johann P. Somerville's book on Hobbes, Thomas Hobbes, Political Ideas in Historical Context. I'm not enjoying this one quite as much. It's a little bit odd. When I look at the footnotes, I don't find what I expect to be there. It's almost like there's pieces of the puzzle missing when I'm trying to reconstruct the sources that this author is drawing from. And he's starting very much in a biographical manner as opposed to as Strauss did, kind of reconstructing the influences only that he suspects Hobbes would have read, would have experienced leading up to his major works. The most important one, from our perspective, being the Leviathan. So that's what I've been doing at the moment. I also ended up reading this week 3 lectures from Foucault's Security, Territory, and Population lectures at the Collège de France, 1977 to 1978. So I read from here. This is a library book here with my notes. I read from here earlier this week lectures 9 to 11, in which Foucault is talking mainly about kind of a shift in Europe's political understanding of the state. I never quite know what to make of Foucault. He's kind of an odd writer. He claims to have no method, but then the methods seem to be there, and it's difficult to know what he's about, and everyone I talk to has their own perspective on exactly what he was trying to do and what he was about. Some people accuse him of nihilism. Other people say that he wouldn't even entertain the question of whether there are universals or not. But so I've been reading a bit of him. Lots and lots of reading to do, and it's probably time I get back to my reading, so I will leave it here for now. Sip this cup of tea here. I think I was having this here mainly just to keep my hands warm. -12, some snow tonight. Winter has arrived here in Canada. But yes, I will return to my readings, return to preparing for the class I teach tomorrow, and I will see you soon, perhaps next Friday even, because I just can't seem to stay away from BookTube.